So welcome to Circular Coffee and Conversation, a kind of bi-weekly, although it turned out a bit weekly in December because we got our dates wrong, but also we had loads of really interesting local and wider sustainable circular businesses that we wanted to chat to, and got probably loads more into the next year. We'll have a short conversation with Liz Pearson, who Sophie will introduce for about 15 minutes. And then we'll open up to the audience for questions. Please feel free to use the chat during the time to put your LinkedIn, introduce yourself, but also log any questions that you might have that comes up in those first 15 minutes. And then we'll have about 10 minutes or so at the end to kind of revisit them and ask them as well to Liz. So I'll hand over to Sophie to introduce.
Erica, hope you all have your hot drink as well. Today you do. Last time you was a cold drink, which was a disaster. So I hope you've got that. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Liz, welcome, and really thank you for being with us. We're very excited about what you're doing, but also the fact that you're Reading-based businesses, and that's really something that we were super keen to promote. So thank you and welcome to me here.
Thank you for having me. I originally joined the group, or wanted to join the group, to listen to other people. So it's quite funny to be presenting myself, because I'm always on the lookout for more ideas and more ways to be sustainable, or, you know, reduce my carbon footprint. So yeah, but it's nice to share as well. So I'm happy to accept anybody's suggestions or ideas for improvements. It's all, you know, a journey. So happy to go along with anybody's ideas. So I have brought I don't have a shortage of objects.
Hold on, Liz, just so I'm going to just give a little background so that they know. So basically, Liz, she's a designer and a wood turner. And I love what you said, that you're inspired by the beautiful English woodlands. And I just love that inspiration by nature that you've got there. And you're also the owner of Love HeartWood. And that's really what we're going to discuss about today. So if you could, yeah, show us your conversation starter, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, I'll try and hold it up to the camera. This is, I'm a turner. I'm a wood turner, and I make toys, gifts, jewelry, homewares. So I brought one of my toys along. It is a whipping top. I was asked to make one of these by a lady last year at the Caversham farmers market that I attended quite a few times last year. And I made one. Oh no, I made 5 for her, because she was it was going to be her 80th birthday, and she remembered playing with one of these as a child. And she wanted to make 5, one for her sister, and one for her 3 cousins. And she wanted to play with them at her 80th birthday party. And they remember their childhood. So I had one of these as a kid, and I could never work it. I got it on a family holiday in Arran, so I knew what she meant. So I made one similar to the one I remembered having. The idea is, for people who don't know, you have a cord, and you wind. I'm trying to put this in front of the camera. You wind the cord around the top, and then you put it on the floor, and you pull the stick while simultaneously holding top in position, and it should spin. And because it's quite weighty and it has a metal pin on the bottom, it will spin for a long time. It has a lot of mass. It's kind of a step up from little spinning tops, little finger tops that I started making 3 or 4 years ago now. So I brought that because it kind of exemplifies my philosophy. This part is made from reclaimed beechwood that I get locally from a guy who makes Aunt Sally sticks. He it's a pub game, and you need long sticks, and you throw the long sticks at a ball, and they play it in pub gardens. They have leagues. I think it's mostly played in the Cotswolds, Gloucestershire, around Oxfordshire. But all of his sticks that have cracks or shapes or knots, they won't throw straight. So I take all of his duff sticks and I chop them up, and I make smaller items out of them. So the color is plant-based color. The finish is plant-based finish again. So it's oils, orange oil, lavender oil, and tongue oil, I think, and it cures and dries. So I don't use any acrylic finishes or lacquers or sprays. This is not leather, the cord. When I was a child, it was leather. This is made from cork. It comes from a small business in Portugal that is sustainable producer of cork. It's beautiful. It's really hard to see on this tiny little camera, but I also use it for my jewelry instead of leather, as a kind of strap for necklaces, pendants. And the bag comes from a company called Where Does It Come From? And they produce ethically hand-woven khadi cotton, which is produced in a very responsible way in India. So I have photos of the people that make my bags. I've seen kind of where they make them, and I get pictures of them, and they print them as well. They screen print them. So all my information is on the back. So I do my best to reduce my packaging. So the idea is this is reusable packaging, and it also has all my information for legal reasons, because the toys are safety tested. So all of that information I have to, by law, give to people. And instead of giving it to them on a label that they will chuck away, I put it on the bag, which they will hopefully keep, and then they have the information as well. So that's my philosophy in one object.
That's amazing. I mean, there's just so much.
So much, yeah.
You already told us in that, looking from the product in itself to some of your ethos and the philosophy behind, it's beautifully designed. And I love how, as we're saying, those games bring the people together as well. It isn't just for kids, but really sort of bring those people, the communities and so on. So it's fantastic. I'm very curious, Liz, to find out about how, basically, I love the little stories about what's behind and how you got to launching your business and to be where you are today.
I fell in love with wood turning when I was studying product design. I was a teacher for many years, and I was sort of getting towards the age of 30 and thinking, do I really want to continue this? I mean, I love the kids, but I found being in the classroom quite frustrating and paperwork quite frustrating. And I thought I have to find out what it is inside me that I want to do. And I always wanted to make things. And I think as I was getting older, I was becoming more confident in myself. I think when I left university, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was a bit panicky. So I've been on a journey the last 10 years or so coming to this. I studied product design, and that kind of taught me that's really what I didn't want to do, which was disappointing at the time, but it was good to learn. I didn't want to be involved in mass production. I didn't want to be involved in manufacturing disposable plastic things, which is really what product designers a lot of the time are asked to do. And I used a lathe in the workshop for my final project because I was designing a coffee table. And I just fell in love with the process. So I had a bit of a gone with the wind moment on the steps of the college, and I stood there and I thought, one day I will get one of those machines. I don't know how or when, but I will get one and I will do this thing. So it took me 7 years leaving college to kind of have a place to actually put a lathe. And we actually installed it like the day after my wedding. People are going, oh, are you going on honeymoon? I was like, no, we're gonna get my workshop set up and put my lathe in the shed. And everyone's like, oh, okay, have a nice time then. And since then, this is all I've been doing. I mean, I still work part-time in a school, so I split my time between school and this business, which I've been building over the last 4 years. So the first thing I made was a rattle, a bit like this, for my son, because he refused to have, people bought me teethers and gel teethers and things you put in the fridge, and he hated them. He spat them out and just screamed, and he wanted to eat my wooden spoons. So I went in the shed and I found a traditional shaker designed rattle. So I made him one of these. This isn't his one, but there's another one, and I've been making those ever since for people because they're really popular and they love to chew on the wood. There's something really satisfying about wood, and beech wood is very safe for toys. It doesn't splinter, so that's why you get beech wood worktops, because it doesn't splinter. But yeah,
Wonderful story.
I can't remember what the question was now. There we go.
It was about your story, so it's wonderful.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was it.
See that actually you led, and I also love what you were saying. Is also finding out what you don't want to do, and I guess there's thing here in between what you're doing. There's much more circular craft versus those mass production. There, you touch a little bit when you show us your conversation starter about some of the aspect that you're doing about circular economy. But I do know that you've incorporated so many different aspects and principles. I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Okay. I mean, originally I wasn't thinking in terms of focusing on sustainability in the business. Originally, I just wanted to make things for people. But as I went on, I thought, well, I have to have some focus for the business, or why am I doing this? And it was through exploring my values and my personal realization that I wanted to be more sustainable with my family and my shopping and my own choices, that I started to look at how I could make the business more sustainable. I'm going to try and share my screen. On my website, I have put, I had this yesterday, now it's disappeared. What's that? That's not it. Sorry.
I can share it for you if you want.
I was just going to try and find Google. It wasn't very exciting. Here we go. Where's Google gone? And then I was just going to find my website, because I've put the story of the toys on there. Very slick, right? Here we go. So on my website, in the sustainable toy story. So this is basically what happens with the toys. I mapped it out. So if we start at the top here, I use sustainably sourced wood. So it's either wood that's recycled from Brian, or it's come from, as I've got in touch with local estates, because I don't want to buy processed wood. I like to work, well, apart from the recycled wood, I like to work from just basically bits of tree and log. So around me, I'm not far from the gentleman who was talking about Pangbourne earlier, Robert. I'm near Mortimer, so I live in Burfield Common. So we've got the common land, but I still feel a bit, sometimes I take branches that I find when I'm walking, but I think that's not very, I can't take a lot of branches. So I approached the Englefield estate, and they have their estate woodyard is about 2 miles from my house. And when they are managing the woodland, they thin the trees, they can't grow too close together. So they will harvest and keep the trees apart from each other in their mixed mature woodland. But when they process the trees, they tend to just plank the main trunk. They don't tend to use much above the crown of the tree where the branches start to come out. So all of that wood is lost. All of the crown of the tree, they just either chip or burn because it's too fiddly to process in a profitable, commercially. So I go and I just pick through. Once they've taken a tree down, they just lay the branches, and I just take all the branch wood that I can, or that I think I can work with. So I just save it from being, wasted, really. And then the next stage is just trying to use as natural materials as possible. When I first started wood turning, I joined my local wood turning club, and I was sort of introduced to various different finishes that you can use. And traditionally, there was various different oils used, natural oils. But as time has gone on, there's money to be made, obviously. So there's a lot of brands now of different kinds of finishes that you can buy that are quick drying, that are easy to use, spray on products, and all these kind of things. And they're marketed at wood turners, but they're all basically different forms of spray on plastic. So I didn't want to use any of those. So I have found a lovely lady who produces plant-based wood stains and finishes that are sort of a mixture, she blends them, and she's another small business. It's taken me a couple of years to find her. I was really happy when I did. And a lot of people who make toys use her paints and wood stains and finishes. They're all tested to come up to code for safety purposes and all that kind of thing. And I also discovered across the Thames from me in Goring, there is Hempen Cooperative, and they make hemp seed oil. They do CPD hemp products, but as a byproduct of that, I guess they crush the hemp seeds and they make hemp oil, which they sell for cooking. It's very good to use for salads and stuff. But I use that on my woodware, so I can drive over there, pick it up, bring it back. It's very close to me. So I was really happy to find them because before that I was having to order oil online, and it was coming from, I didn't know where it was produced, and it was coming from quite far away. So I'm slowly trying to shrink my net down and try and get my suppliers as local as possible. This year's a new initiative. When a toy is sold, I now have a tree planted. So that's a little bit of offsetting. And it's also nice for customers because they feel that they're giving back a little bit. And I do that through a charity called Tree Sisters. So I'm supporting 3 projects in sensitive Amazonian areas that they feel planting trees in those areas will have the biggest impact for the communities there and the wildlife, as well as the trees. Yeah, the packaging I spoke about already. So I've tried to keep everything as minimal as possible and reusable. And also I don't sell through shops. It's kind of, there's 2 reasons why. One is it makes everything too expensive because obviously the shop has to have its share of money, so we have to increase the price. And if I'm selling direct, there's less travel, there's less shipping. It's just coming straight from me to the customer, as opposed to going shipped to a shop and then to the customer. And then this is something else I thought I could do this year, which is repairing broken toys for people. I had a lady again at Caversham ask me last year about, she brought a toy and said, could you fix this? And I said, yeah, I'm sure I could. It's quite easy. It's a dog that was a push along dog and its head had snapped off. So I could put a new piece of dowel in and glue it up and fix it for her. And this year I became a member of the British Toy Makers Guild. So if people contact me through my website and send me photos of their poor broken toy, I will, if I can't fix it, I will pass that information along to the guild. So I have everyone's emails from the guild. So I forward the email, and usually somebody will go, yeah, oh yeah, I can fix that. It's really easy. So you just need the right expertise. So it's really nice to be a channel for that, to allow people to find the right person to fix their toy. And I'll just finish the cycle at the end, obviously, because I used completely natural materials. Eventually, when the toys are done in and they can't be played with anymore, they are completely biodegradable. They just go back to nature. So that's, I think of it as a cycle rather than a circle, because I suppose it's nature, it's natural.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think of it, it is literally a life cycle.
Yeah, it's fantastic, Liz. Thank you so much. I mean, there's so much in what you've just said. We could just carry on talking for a long time, but we're conscious all the time. That's a challenge.
It's hard, yeah.
I mean, there's a few things that really stood out for me is like the sourcing of your products and all the natural cycle that you're putting back together. There is also all the ecosystem and the collaboration and working with the people, as you were saying, locally, but also within broader network to sort of combine all the different skills. And I also love you keep going back to it from a customer perspective. You know, your customers came and asked you questions, and you listened to them and then built something that was relevant with your ethos, but also answering their needs. And that's something that I come from a commercial background, and that's something that is really, really important. I find fascinating here. So just conscious about the time. If anyone's got any questions, put them in the chat now. I'm just going to have one more, if that's okay, whilst they're typing and so on, and then you can maybe tell us a bit more about the repair aspect as well. But I'm really interested in, because you really have those cycles and so on, as I say, do you communicate that to customers? And do you see, for example, because you've got the repair now, that it attracts customers from a different perspective, or really gets them to interact with you differently?
It tends to be different people. I think because this year I've been, I mean, my plans have been rather derailed by COVID, like everybody's plans. I had plans this year to do lots of big live events, to really get up, really chat to my customers and get much more, get to know people better and what they wanted. And that I haven't been able to do any of that. So I've been working on the website. So all of the repair inquiries are coming through the website, and they're coming from people who just want things mended. They're not looking to buy anything. But I don't mind that. I see that as part of my sharing, sharing my skills and sharing information with people. They will now know about me, so they may come back and buy something. But it's more, I see there's sort of different aspects to what I'm doing. I think because it's so personal to me, this business, it's sort of about making money, but it's also about sharing myself and sharing with people. I think that's the difference with a small business. You're very invested in it yourself. So I want to just help people with help people with aspects of things. It's like, that's why I like to offer people the customization options. So the toys, I like the customers to be involved in the creation up to a point. I mean, give them too much choice and sometimes they get a bit confused. So they can choose, obviously they can choose the colors, they can add a personalization. So I will write inscriptions on for people, so it makes them more special and more personal. So up to a point they can customize things. I also do commissions, so if somebody wants something completely bespoke, we can work on that. But that, and you think you have to know what what you're in for when you go in for that process. It's quite, if people often go, oh, could you just make? And I can't just make, it's a bit of an involved process, but I did make some beautiful, again, a completely different direction, completely a pair of funeral urns for ashes last year. A lady wanted, she wanted them, one for her and one for her mother, so they could share her father's ashes. And she wanted them in the shape of acorns, which were a lovely symbol of hope and rebirth. So she, we worked on that together, and I did initial drawings, and then she chose the shapes she liked, and we thought about how she would display them, and different, her mother wanted a stand, and she wanted hers lying down, but obviously flat, so it wouldn't roll off the mantelpiece. And we worked through design, we worked through the design, and so it took a couple of months, but
I can imagine. So we've got one final question, and then we're going to have to let you go because you need to go back to your
I have to go to my other job.
So we've got should I start with Mark then? As an ex-teacher, do you work with children and help inspire the next generation about the beauty of working with natural materials?
That is one of the things I'd like to do. I am involved at the moment in the Andover Trees United, which is a tree planting charity in Andover. I'm involved with them on their Ashwood project. So at the moment, we can't go into schools, but we are, through the Andover Trees United website, I'm giving them updates on what I'm doing with the wood. Again, this is a massive project that I can't explain in like 1 minute, but I'm hoping as part of that project, which you can read about on my website if you want to, the One Ash project it's called. I am hoping to go into schools next year down in Andover, the ones that are following me as a maker through this project, and show them how I work with the wood. because a lot of children don't really understand about forestry management and how we can work. We can use trees sustainably, and you know, not cutting down a tree is not necessarily a disaster.
Mark is loving it, I'm clapping as well. So thank you. Right. So final question for real this time is like, what challenges do you think you have to be more sustainable or in business from a personal perspective, also business perspective?
Things I want to do next year, things I'm thinking about are, I mean, I use a green electric provider at the moment, but I would like to move my website to a green post, which I haven't done that yet. And I want to more specifically track the carbon footprint of the product I make and maybe the business as a whole. Look into the tree planting that I'm doing, and maybe then I can be more specific about my carbon offsetting. I mean, at the moment I do one tree, I plant a tree for everything that, you know, for every one product sold. I don't know if that is enough to offset, because I don't know specific figures of my, you know, carbon footprint. So that's, I want to get a bit more precise on that. But that's my plan at the moment.
Fantastic. I really love seeing, you know, the journey basically that you're on, and really you're always looking at what's next and so on in scaling that. So that's fantastic. Right. So I think I really wanted to say like a very big thank you from all of us. We will share that video because there were so many, I think we had like 25 people sign up for this talk. So we will share that with everyone else. But thank you. I think it's an amazing business, and really seeing, you know, truly the circular economy being brought to life through your small business is absolutely fantastic. So we'll share the link as well, because there's some lovely gift ideas into that for people. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks everyone for joining as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye.
Liz. Bye.
Bye everybody.
Bye.